Perfect. All right. It's 12 o'clock here. We got a couple people. I'm just going to give them some seconds to roll in. Started a little late. Sorry about that. And then we'll get rolling. So thank you for everybody for attending. We're excited to give you a little bit of a dry run here and test of well, I would say collectively between Jill and I, probably close to 20 years of aspirations to pull something like this off. Yeah.
Absolutely. Totally true.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm gonna just share my screen and we'll jump right into this. So all right. So from the beginning, here we go. So Women 365 .io is in today's webcast. Their topic is making the most of your women in the workforce. We're I got a notice from Alicia saying that she's running late, but hopefully she can join us. So in case you haven't figured it out, Jill is the active fireball and I'm the one talking. So Jill, why don't you talk a bit about your company and what you do and all the good things, and then I'll talk on Alicia's behalf and give a summary of mine.
Okay, perfect. Perfect. Well, hey there. Yes, I'm Jill Tupper, and I'm a keynote speaker. Kind of got thrust into that around 30 years ago, and I've gone nationally and internationally. And so I'm really all about tools, transformation. And so you're going to find bodies of work of mine like Conquer Crisis, Train Like a Triathlete, Body, Mind, and Business. So I do these from a point of a keynote, but I also will go much deeper into a really deep dive with leadership or executive teams where we can spend, a year together pouring into the lives of people for full on internal transformation. And I use a lot of the neuroscience, kind of geeking out that way as a former occupational therapist. My master's is in leadership. And I have had the opportunity to work with all types of people around the globe. So from CEOs to the most impoverished. And so I've had an opportunity to really study people. And I am all about what David and I are about is be your better. And it's not just a cliche or a thought. It is actually something that there are tools that I have fought for, by the way. Every tool I teach, I have fought for and I have utilized, whether I was on the top of Kilimanjaro, 19,600 feet with dysentery, or whether I was at the lowest, darkest point of my life where everything imploded and literally sucked down into the quicksand of despair. So these are abilities or innate tools. And so you're going to find me using those, whether I'm executive coaching, whether I am in groups for leadership development as an innovator, taking people to their better, or whether you're going to find this in a keynote. So ultimately, it's all about us crossing the finish line as a triathlete, body, mind, business, but to our very best, soaring across the finish line, thriving, not crawling like so many of us are today. So does that help a little bit?
That's awesome. Thanks.
Okay.
So I'll fill you in a bit about Alicia. So Alicia owns a company called Inspire Works, and I met her I guess 2.5 years ago, and sort of watched some of the things she was doing, and she really fits very well into and has a huge passion for women in the workplace, runs a number of programs focusing around that. As a matter of fact, she's based in Canada, and one of the programs she's working on is a women in leadership program that the automobile associations and dealer associations have brought her in to develop and create, just focusing around women in that particular segment. As you can imagine, it's hard enough being um, women in the workplace when it comes to certain things, but in a pretty much male dominated industry, it's got to be a little tougher. So, and me, so I run best practice in HR and benefits and talent acquisition. Truth is, I'm probably, my claim to fame is I'm extremely well connected and know way too much about human capital at the surface level. I guess about 8 years ago, I was working with a firm that had a women in corporate program, and we were developing some materials and some marketing for it. And I really saw a need for taking a step back on how we approach betterment. Definitely women in the workforce is, have their own set of obstacles. But really, to be your best, there's a combination of things that have to happen, and we're going to slightly get into that. So, oh, Joe, you can jump in anytime. So if we just look at some of the stats, facing women, right? Typically, they make just over 80% of what men do. Since 2020, they have an increase of 18% when it comes to burnout. Only 26% of the workforce focuses around or is VP level. For every 100 men promoted, 86 women are promoted. 41% of women think that they're overweight, or sorry, are overweight, and 57% believe they're overweight.
I think,
Domestic.
by the way,
Sorry.
I think that's a low statistic. I do.
Well,
I've never met a woman who didn't think she was overweight. It's absolutely crazy. Yeah.
right. And so, domestic abuse is obviously on the increase as COVID or additional stresses seem to happen, then it rises. But the one thing that really truthfully makes me most passionate about this is, and I was very fortunate enough in my household growing up that this was, actually, if you look at my mom's side, the woman, she's got six sisters. They're all strong as oxes. Like they're, they're like principals. I have an aunt who was the president of Hockey Canada, and actually took Hockey International, in the mid 70s. Actually, before the 70s, even before the men started doing it. Just a huge pioneer, and so I never saw it any different until I got out there and realized that it's a fortunate position I was in. But if we can reduce some of these unhealthy patterns, it's great for society. So truthfully, so what is Women 365? It's a platform, really. It's we don't have the answers, or I don't have the answers. Jill doesn't have all the answers, but collectively, this platform will have the experts and the answers that people are looking for. And the platform is something that individuals can leverage, companies can leverage, people that have products and services that gear towards these three pillars, which are coming up. They can leverage it. So the three pillars, should we let the cat out of the bag? But maybe not yet, eh? So it's really a movement for holistic change and betterment, and that's how we want it to be positioned. And it's built for women with the sole purpose of driving positive change over time.
And what I would interject here is that it's holistic. That's what's drawn me to really passionately want to work with David. When we first connected, David and I were like, I'm like, oh my gosh, you really get where I'm coming from. Because if we don't work on this in a holistic way and it becomes a strategy versus a, how would I say it? Integration, then we've blown it. We're just slapping on one more sort of male answer, if I will, of throwing on a strategy that we sort of try to mimic. We're not talking about that at all. We're talking about integration so that there is a strength that comes from our core center to really take us across the finish line, because the obstacles aren't going to disappear. Does that make sense?
As to me.
Good.
Yep.
Great.
All right. So introduction, right? So mind, body, and soul, or as we're going through the copyright process, it might be mind, body, and business, right? So if we look at all the three pillars we talked about, these are all equally as important to your overall success as a human, right? You need to worry about your career. You need to worry about your physical, in your body and your health. And then, truthfully, you have to keep everything together between your ears, right? And that, for some people, that's different, right? It could be how to deal with OCD or pressure, or bratty kids, or grieving from parents, or obstacles that can distract you from overall goals. And really, it's a mindset that can be worked on to create happiness. And then, when you're happy, your career is more beneficial. There's more opportunities for you. If you're physically unwell, that starts to impact on all of those things. But if you have 400 pounds and 10 types of diabetes, there's only so far you can go in the workforce, right? So this is a program, and there's tons of research that tells you, a little bit of movement, a little bit of exercise is really all you need to keep yourself in a healthy frame.
Well, and if I would even kind of piggyback on this, is that the neuroscience can kind of show us that we create neural pathways that are on a negative downward spiral, and we'll kind of understand why we do that. But it is a protective mechanism. So when we move into a level of change, we could often face resistance, and that's understandable. But what we want to do is create this upward spiral where you are building the body, the mind, the soul, as it creates, again, I go back to this core center strength. So you can, I always talk about it in terms of this surfing the waves of uncertainty. Because life, whether it's our family, whether it's our business, whether it's our well-being, whether it's relationships, we are surfing uncertainty. Every wave is different, but the core strength can carry us through.
Absolutely. Sorry about that.
No, you're good.
Yeah, and so how do we do this, really? If you can imagine, this is a virtual program, and so not that we've all seen our fair share of virtual events, but this is an illustration that I pulled up. So you come in, you have your meeting rooms, you can choose 5 sessions a week that you want to be a part of. You can get information from service providers that are that may have additional resources that you need in order to help yourself, right? It's not as easy as just saying, I want to lose weight, or I want to be, work on my some of my weaknesses in the career. A lot of these take those tools, or take instances. And then I'll even take it a step farther and say that not every tool set's built for every person, right? You have to identify something that resonates with you. And often, until you have that connection, you never buy in to the full degree. So here's a sample of this is a 52-week program, right? It's actually perpetual, but I just call it 52 weeks because it matches with the Women 365. But here's a sample of what week 1 would look like. So we have a bunch of folks that are just dynamite speakers, and of course Jill's on there, and you pick your sessions that you want to go to, you want to participate in. And then week 2, it'll be a bunch of experts to talk about fitness or body or health. And then week 3, it'll be a series of sessions that focus on relationships, struggling with different, anything from substance abuse to parents to anything that can impact the loop in your head, if you will, that gets in your way. And then week 4, we're going to bring somebody in that's inspirational. Okay, but that's the start of the program, right? So after the speakers, what's really cool is the virtual event platform that you saw a glimpse of will take these folks, and depending on how they're registered and to what capacity, it redirects them to where they need to go. So the general program, it'll drop them back to a same group for 3 months that will focus on or that will be like-minded individuals based off of career, income, industry, interest, and it'll be a peer group, which we're calling an accountability group. So if you look at programs that work and also don't work in the same thing, Weight Watchers, Alcoholics Anonymous, when you are accountable to your group, your success level increases dramatically, right? And so we're going to give you a network, and then not to have network fatigue, we're going to flip you, into a new network so that you can, chat amongst each things. So while you're in these sessions, you have the ability, or we'll work with you with goals. So you'll have a goal, career goals, you'll have physical goals, you'll have personal goals, and you come back, you choose your sessions, general conversation, you map out what you learned to your goals, you share with the other speakers. They might say, oh my God, I'm so disappointed. I went to see this speaker, but it sounds like you guys think this person was great, and you can talk about what the takeaways were as a group, and then of course you can go back and view the archives at any time. So what corporations are doing is they often have programs that are tough to get people motivated and excited to do. So if you're a company and you have a group of women that you are interested in training, well, you can let them go to the speakers, you can put them into that general program, or you can map them right back to a peer group that might be inside your company, a group of however many you want. It's up to you with your internal trainer, your internal person, to cover the curriculum that you want to cover. Right? And then there are other examples of programs. So really effectively what we've done is we've created a market. So maybe you don't have that program where you have women in leadership initiatives in your office, but they have budget for it, right? So on the high end, we've had some conversations with UCLA that have a woman on the board virtual program, So if that's your goal or that's where you want to allot some people, then they can go in and they can learn about those programs. Programs like Jill's going to talk about that she has will be in here, right down to something as simple as a 6 session grieving program, right? And so if you're the type of company that just gives budget, there'll be a proper place where these folks can choose, get a feel for these programs, and they can decide what maps with them personally best, come to approval, go through the normal process, and then some of those programs um, will fit into you know, the overall schedule or modified schedule based off the needs. Okay. Is there anything you want to add to that, Jill?
No, I think what the whole goal that we're doing is fingers on the pulse of what the real needs are in real time, and we're addressing those. That's what we feel like the programs tend to be slapped onto, not as customized to people, which is why there's a lack of satisfaction or even growth. So David's vision here, our vision here, is to have our fingers on the pulse of what the needs are, so that we can address those and you can actually get what you need at the moment to be your better ultimately.
Yeah. So we like everybody learns in a different style or different manner, or they're hung up on certain things. And really, this is a place where they'll identify their weaknesses, they'll identify some things that they need to work on, and then maybe they'll just put their hands up and say, I can't do this on my own, right? I need some help. If I hate to pick on poor people that are over 400 pounds with every type of diabetes, but if they don't know where to start with an exercise program or something to get them moving, well, there'll be people in the marketplace that can help them say, listen, I know you have bad knees, but we can start with I don't even know myself. It might be 200 yards of walking, or it might be try to avoid these foods. We'll help you. Here's a meal plan, and so they can get the help they need, and ultimately get them into the right mindset to be productive for companies and most important for themselves and for their family.
And this is where I would say life's a team sport. Like, it is a team sport. There's a reason I've done marathons, triathlons, because I'm running with all these other people. Would I run a marathon by myself? I don't think so. Right. So we do it as a team, we do it with others moving forward to our personal best. All you care about is a PR. And so when it comes to this, that each one of us, we need, especially women, by the way, I know this. I need my tribe, I need my posse who are calling me to my better, not people that are saying, giving me all the excuses as to why not, or why I should be struggling, or why life is difficult, and they understand. Not that I don't appreciate a little understanding, but for the most part, I'm looking for people that are running the race, so to speak, that are going to challenge me to my best. And so I think that's what we need. We need each other. And as women, it's been proven, David, there's no way we can do this on our own. We're not wired like that.
And you need that team sometimes just to hold a
Totally.
hand out and pull you along,
That's
right?
right.
And so in the program, we sort of touch on, there is a fitness competition, if you will, and it really is a walking program, a well-known walking program that's universally recognized, and it converts any form of exercise that you do into steps, and then collectively as a team, you got goals, and you can, we're gonna measure you against other teams, and so it sort of challenges people to do better, right? And that's really what the goal is, and with those groups, you feel obligated. You feel like you're a part of something and not doing it on your own, and
I
that's
think it's motivated, not even obligated. You're motivated. You want to keep up with your buddies. You
yeah.
want to be your better. It's such a cool thing.
So let's see what we got next. So, really what's included, um, we'll establish and help you with those three key pillars. We're going to run 5 sessions a week on each of those. And most of these are TEDx type speakers that I've sourced, and we have those accountability groups. We talked about the team fitness. I've incorporated a perks program in it. Truthfully, it's somebody that I've worked in the human capital space, so they have discounts and products and services on over like 600,000 things. So it's pretty easy to do. And if we can save some people some money in the process, then why not, right? So the general program, we sort of touched on this. Really, our goal is to have about 8 to 15 people aside. We'll match them based off of industries. The last thing a CEO or a senior VP really wants to do is be in a group with, potentially a bunch of people right out of university, right? That's not what they feel is their best use of time. So we value people's time. We want to put them into groups that are equals and they can learn from, right? We're going to give them over 2, possibly a 3-week periods. We're going to teach them how to communicate like a coach. So if anybody's ever been through that process of being a coach, it's brilliant, right? It changes the way that you hear, changes how you listen, it changes what you look for, and it helps you identify maybe where you fit into a problem and where you're just aside. So it's a really, I encourage all people to go through that process just for fun, if not anything else. So then after the speakers, they'll drop back into their accountability groups. Through the coaching, communicating like the coach, we're going to put it to practice. They'll take turns leading the groups, being the communicator. And then ultimately, the groups have free reign to, let's say we have a bunch of, first time managers. Well, maybe they have questions and they say, like, what do we got to do to, get to the next level? What are people looking for? Or how do you balance this? They can ask that question, it's led by the lead, and they can submit that, and we'll dive into the network and we'll find those experts, and maybe not the following week, but maybe over the next month when time permits, that we'll bring in somebody into the group and they can chat and they can talk about whatever issue it was that they had and help them. So it's effectively a mentor type of program that will allow these folks to be part of something and ask questions. There'll be a lot of folks in here. They can ask questions. We have the experts. It's about sharing knowledge for betterment. Jill, it looks like you're biting your tongue there.
No, I'm good. I know when my hands are still, you think I'm biting my tongue.
Yeah. So the corporate program, these are companies that have their existing training, existing coaches. Maybe it's geared depending on the hierarchy, so your first time managers might get a little bit of work, and then your executives, have hands-on, up to one-on-one. So, these can be they can be formatted in any way you want, but ideally we get them in, you direct where they go. And I think that the regular consistency over the period with those goals, with the mapping, with the networking, will do nothing but enhance opportunities for the folks in there. Yeah. And then, we talked a bit about the market. So, some of the things that could be in there is first-time managers, dress for success, overcoming obstacles, women in sales, sales managers. There's lots of different things that people have reached out to me that want to be a part of it. Uh, Dietitians, fitness boot camps, meal planning. There are literally thousands of potential, um, not only products, but potential groups, right? So if you wanted to, or anybody comes in and they don't, they can choose a group or create a group if they really want to, so it's possible that they could put in, um, I don't know, people that want to sail, women that want to sail, and or executives that sail, and they can get other people with those interests. So the whole focus is about building that peer group based off of your needs and your interests, so that you can feel comfortable and really take a good look at yourself and how you need to improve or what you need to improve on. So oddly enough, when I first came out with this concept, and although I'm pushing a lot of buttons and sort of moving it along, truth is it's my wife's idea. And so she practices it, and I watched her, I just watched her rise, and I watched her focus on these things, and she's a chronic learner, and she's incredibly diligent, and she picked herself up, and to the point, I don't really want to tell her story or anything, but when she left her first husband, she had $17 in the bank, right? And went to, not because of abuse or anything, she didn't want to impose on anybody, and she was thought of going to a shelter, and she went with her mom, and with two young children. She asked if one child could stay with the father for a while, and until she could get a place for her own. Like she really started from absolutely nothing, or restarted from nothing, and now she's an amazing example and helped so many people. And to tell you the truth, I just watched from the sidelines, and it just mapped according to my connections and my network and my philosophy, and I'm a slow learner. She just dragged me along, and I became a part of this. So we put a price in, $50, because we want everybody to be a part of it. We don't have the answers, but we can sure the heck get you in the right place to get the answers, or partner with the stuff that you're doing. It really just becomes a platform of entry that allows the framework for people to grow.
Right.
Jill?
Oh, you've got my passion here 100%, because the stories I know from working with women through the years are unreal, just like your wife's, David, where so many of us, I call it from derailed to destiny. So many of us have had our lives derailed for 1,001 reasons, and often no fault of our own. And that's the kind of women that I tend to work with, ones that, you can get to that point of being, not just, I call it the D factor, right? So derailed, and you really are disillusioned, and that can lead into depression. I mean, there's such a downward spiral that can happen, that we know as women, our only choice is to get back up, and then to get back up, and then to get back up, and to get back up. And that's the way that we build this internal strength. But I would say that the stories I hear, very, very few women are just catapulted on easy street. Most of us have really put in some rough times. And if you've chosen to have children, often our lives are pulled which is why burnout is at the highest rate for women today, as you started out, David, that it's ever been. And it's always been. It's just even more so now because of all of the global pandemic challenges that we're thrust into trying to take care of the well-being of people in our companies, the well-being of people, our own children, maybe it's our parents, maybe it's our neighbors, and how do we help everyone rise without exhausting all of our own resources? So no, I'm spot on with this. We need each other, this movement, in order to be able to strengthen one another, have the resources, and move forward more empowered together.
All right, so to sum up, why we're going to have 200 speakers, 12 inspirational stories, 52 weeks of learning, those accountability groups. Truthfully, super hard from a marketer, super hard to market, but so much action happens in those. They're so valuable. The goal tracker, health competitions. I have fundraising on here, but companies can use actually the and individuals for that matter there's a fundraising option. So if you wanted to raise money for a charity and map it according to physical exercise, you can totally do that. And that's super simple. And and the goal really gain confidence, learn strategies, be motivated, reach new goals, increase mindfulness, be more productive, get healthier, reduce stress. And some of those just like they just weave together, right? If you're healthier, your stress goes down. It just is about the diligence of doing it, right?
Mhm.
So so I'm just gonna pause my screen here. Or Jill, did you want to talk about your program? Did you want to pull that up and then take over screen?
Your call, David. I'm on board with you.
Yeah, so if you could do that, just so that I don't go blank here, if you have it handy.
Okay, I'm looking.
All right. So I should ask, are there any questions?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't see any of those, so that's
Okay.
super cool. So and while I'm just waiting for Jill, sorry to throw you on the spot, Jill, but
That's all right.
really, and by the way, I am trying to fire myself from this project. I don't want to be the face of it, and I have put an offer out to both Jill or sorry, I'm working in offers to Jill and Alicia to sort of run this, um, and I'll just be back in, but so ideally, this is a marketplace that focuses on mind, body, and business, and how can companies and organizations and individuals leverage it. Right.
I'm with you.
All right, you're up, man. You got it.
Hey. Well, so David and I really speak the same language. And I think that's what has me so passionate. People used to say to me, Jill, pick a lane. Is it body? Is it mind? Is it business? And I'm like, yes, it is all of those coming into sync. And so I use the whole analogy about training like a triathlete: body, mind, and business, because it's never just one. And if you've ever tackled a triathlon, you discover that, which I have a handful, you discover that you're great in one sport. Like, I'm a great runner. I can just run forever, right? And then you're decent in the other, but you suck in the third. I mean, you just suck. And so for this, most of us are brilliant in one. Like us as women, many of us are brilliant in the area of business, which is your passion, your purpose. It's really your call, your makeup, what you're really about on the earth to do. Okay, so that's business. And then, but I would say with every single woman I know, the mind has been something that, why they've tried to train it, often it can go so awry in the area of stress, overwhelm, that then it starts sabotaging the body. So this mind-body connection is inextricable, and stress of the mind completely can hijack the body. And I work with people consistently in learning to train these. And I use a lot of neuroscience that we go into, but it's really practical. It's not heady. One of my taglines that I believe in with all my heart is no one needs more information. We need integration. We need to integrate our mind and our body and our business together for the greatest strength. And I use this little analogy, like when we're in the sympathy, when we're in a relaxed, calm, centered state, we are innovative. We are able to work collaboratively as a team. We are able to respond versus react, right? And we're in a greater sense of health and well-being, physically, mentally, with our business. However, when we're more overwhelmed and stressed, like every woman I know, I just spoke to a group of women 2 days ago, about 1,000 women, all WIC, women in cable communications, telecommunications. And the number one thing was everyone was pushing the panic button. Everyone felt like they were in a fight, flight, and freeze. This is what we end up like. Everything shuts down. Even our organs aren't operating properly when we're in a stressed state. So everything David and I are talking about really comes from this core learning about bringing the mind, the body, and the business completely into sync, where we come from a place of response versus reaction, right? You guys know exactly what I'm talking about. Peace and calm and innovation versus frenetic fear. And then we lock down, and without realizing it, things have been hijacked. We're not being our better. So I would say for me that training like a triathlete, you have to train all three, and then you bring them into sync. And we go into the sympathetic versus the parasympathetic. This is really key. We might understand it, but we don't know how to integrate the shift. And that's something that I've learned through the years, because why? I'm high energy. I'm an overfunctioner. I had to learn it for myself. So, and I teach others. So that is really key. And then we've worked with a lot of clients across the board, from Fortune 500s, CEOs, YPO. I've worked with women's groups around the country. And what we really want to do more than anything is move people to this place of realizing, and I've talked about it a lot today, well, in my work, is that we are all in an ultra triathlon right now. David, nobody signed it up for it. No one trained for it. There's no freaking finish line in sight. So we've got to train in it. So we're not crawling across the finish line, we're soaring. And it is possible, and I know you don't believe it, but once you understand sort of the neuroscience and how the brain hijacks. So I do this one-on-one with executives. I also do this in groups, and then I do a lot of keynotes, and then we can even dive deep in a full leadership certification in this area. So this is a deep well. These are things I learned that I had to fight for and practice again and again and again. And so this is one part of what I do, besides other keynotes and work. Goals, Guts, and Grit is another one. But really, it's about training yourself and coming alongside of others to be trained, so that you can ultimately, just like David said so beautifully, be your better, not the best, your better, in a calm, centered, creative, collaborative way. So that's that, David. Does that help?
That's awesome. Thanks. So,
Okay.
it's unfortunate that Alicia wasn't able to come on, because I really wanted to show you what her program is, because sadly, and not hard to figure out why, Jill and I connected, because we finally found somebody that actually speaks our language. But I wanted to show you Alicia's program, as far as what she's doing in the Automobile Association space, because it really shows you how some of this how it could be utilized with um, with the structure, the format, and the speakers, right? And so I know personally, and I fully admitted that I'm a slow learner, that my wife will tell me something, and then I'll watch a YouTube video literally, and I'll say, "Hey, and my wife just looks at me like, "Yeah, I've been telling you that for like 3 months, Dave." Right? And it's just sometimes it's just about having a different person or a different perspective and or a different tone. I'm not really sure what it is, but you resonate with it, right? And so, if you look at the 200 speakers, I'm sure that there's going to be a bunch of crossover, and bunch of the same phrases, right? But it's not it, but it's how it's delivered, right? And that's where I think a lot of people, a lot of organizations tend to fail is they have one person that speaks all the time, and you get burnout. You get speaker burnout. To use the sporting phrases, sometimes managers of football teams, baseball teams, hockey teams, they get fired. It's not because they don't know how to. It's not because they don't know how to coach. Um, Although the tweets might tell you differently, but it's you lose the room. They stop listening to you. And so if we can have more people reinforcing some of that stuff, then it just helps, overall to get the message out, right? All right. So unfortunately, I have another webcast that I have to jump onto. So if there's any questions, feel free to answer. And by the way, I'll send you some details, everybody that's registered and everybody that didn't make it. So you'll get to see this. But if you want to get in touch with Jill, I'll certainly give her or put her contact information there for you. And look forward to you folks participating and joining the movement. It'll be a fun ride.
It'll be an awesome ride.
All right. Thanks, Jill.
Thanks. Let's go be our better.
You bet.
Bye,
Bye now.
guys. Be well.